Good morning, students. So in the previous activity, you had drawn one chart in which you have written the main points about the application of adsorption, and you have done that in a very colorful manner. I believe that instead of reading the text, if I can help you to understand the applications of those terms which you have written in a descriptive manner, it may be useful of me being over here. So the first one is explain the applications of adsorption. So we can write like this: following are the applications of adsorption. Whenever this kind of question will be asked, the first thing what you should do is try to give a visual impression to the examiner. The way you have done that radial chart which you have made, in which you have written the application of adsorption and radially you have jotted down the points. So that if you do, so in less time you will be able to impress the examiner. After that, if you can invest time, then you can write a few points about that, which I am going to explain you right now. First, production of high vacuum. So, when you produce a high vacuum inside a tube, then the air is pulled out, but what happens? The moisture remains adhered with the surface of the system. Say for example, if you are taking a discharge tube, and then if you want to make it vacuumized, then the moisture may remain adhered with the surface. So that moisture, if that is absorbed by the adsorbent, some kind of adsorbent like silica gel, then the vacuum will be even better vacuum, isn't it? So a high vacuum can be created if that moisture is also absorbed or adsorbed by the silica gel. This was one example. Second is use of adsorption in making gas mask. There are many occupations in which there are occupational hazards. Like when you work in industries, then dusts can be there, harmful gases can be also there. In coal mines, when the workers they get into the mine under the ground, or sometimes in the open cast mine also, it sometimes happens that methane gas starts coming out. Not only methane, there could be any other petroleum gases which can be obnoxious and can be harmful. So these gases, being bigger than the oxygen, can be absorbed or adsorbed on an adsorbent which is fitted into the mask. Now, due to this corona, most of you are using mask nowadays. So you might be seeing that there is a bottle cap kind of a structure. Inside that also adsorbent is there, which adsorbs the moisture so that you can breathe freely. If you wear that mask for longer time, you will find that the moisture which you give out after respiration, that gets accumulated into that transparent bottleneck or bottle cap kind of a structure on the mask. Alright, so that helps to adsorb the moisture which we breathe out, as well as the poisonous gases which comes out from the mines. Okay, so next is control of humidity. In case of electronics, there are certain circuits which has to be made in a very dry condition, in which moisture can disrupt the circuit, because moisture can conduct electricity feebly, and that would be very harmful for the circuit. So such kind of circuits or such kind of circuit boards, they are kept dry by keeping a small packet of silica gel nearby. Nowadays we are using this LCD or LED television. Some years back, CRT television used to be used, like the cathode ray tube, in which the kit was there, and in that kit The integrated circuit was not there, and there were like big transformers inside. So if in the rainy season moisture would get absorbed due to the heat inside that, then what would have happened is short circuit would have happened, or some kind of disruption in the flow of current would have happened. So these materials or these circuits or these electronic gadgets, they also are packed in the cartoon in which this kind of silica gel is kept so that humidity can be controlled. All right. Fourth is removal of coloring material. As I have given you the example that if you go to the picnic and if you put excess of turmeric, then you can extract out the excess of turmeric by putting some half burnt twigs in the form of wood charcoal into it. So wood charcoal would absorb that. So in the same way, when we do filtration or when we purify the sugar in the industry, then the sugar is made to pass through bone charcoal. So what happens? The yellow colored organic pigments, they are adsorbed. So in many cases, the adsorbents are used to remove the coloring substances in a substance which requires to be purified further. So that appearance wise, it does not look impure. It looks shiny, white, colorless like that. Okay. Next is heterogeneous catalysis. Catalysis will be a topic which will be discussed soon after the end of this topic, but since this point is over here, so let me make you a little bit aware about what catalysis is. Catalysis is the process in which the activation energy of the reaction is brought down so that the reaction pathway is shortened and the speed of reaction increases such that the formation of product becomes faster. Alright, so how catalyst works? Catalyst works by providing a common surface area for the reactant and the product to be together and to react. Otherwise, they will be moving from here and there. I'll just give you one example of two reactants trying to react without a catalyst and two reactants trying to react with a catalyst with the example, with a very funny example. So I will be calling one of my friends to make it a little funny. Come. Now he is my friend, he is going to bash on my face. He will not do that. Moment he will try to bash, I will move my face away just like a gas molecule. Try. Try. So he is one reactant and I am one reactant. So if I am free to move, then we will not collide. But if he holds my neck on the wall, then this board will act as a catalyst. And then effective collision can be there, and then my teeth can break and new teeth can come out. If I am a baby, but I am not. So maybe I can get some kind of injury on my lips or skin, and that can be regenerated. All right. So the surface acts like a platform where the reactant and the substrate. The substrate is the compound on which the reactant attacks. All right. The substrate and the reactant they remain imbibed together on that platform. Like it's just like a stage in which the reactant and the substrate performs. So without stage, no performance can take place. And performance take place better when there is a proper platform for that. So catalyst gives a proper platform for the reaction to take place. Now what is the meaning of heterogeneous catalyst? If the state of matter of the reactant, of the substrate and the catalyst is same, then we call it as homogeneous catalyst. But if the state of matter of the reactant, the substrate and the catalysts are different, then we call it as heterogeneous catalyst. Like oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide. So sulfur dioxide is gas, sulfur trioxide is also a gas. And this takes place in presence of vanadium pentoxide. So this vanadium pentoxide is a solid. So it is heterogeneous catalyst. Now, if a catalysis, if any catalysis is done in such a way that the state of matter of the reactant and the substrate and the catalyst, all three are same, we will call that as homogeneous catalysis. So here we are talking about heterogeneous catalysis. What does heterogeneous catalysis mean? Heterogeneous catalysis means the state of matter of the reactant, the product and the catalyst, they are different. As I have given you the example of sulfur dioxide becoming sulfur trioxide in presence of vanadium pentoxide as catalyst. Or you also might have studied about the process of conversion of nitrogen and hydrogen to form ammonia in presence of iron and molybdenum, where iron acts as a catalyst and is a solid, where hydrogen and nitrogen, they are gases. So when states of matter of the reactant and the substrate and the catalyst are different, we call it as heterogeneous catalysis. And I just told you how the catalyst works. Catalyst gives a platform for the reactant and the product to come together and to collide effectively. Otherwise, they will move in their own path without colliding effectively. Alright. Next point is separation of inert gases. Separation of inert gases. Now, how do we separate gas? Can you recall the concept which you have studied in class 9th, fractional distillation, in which what we were doing? We were bringing down the temperature of the air by compressing it at low temperature, and at different boiling point, the nitrogen gas, the carbon dioxide, dry ice form, hydrogen gas and oxygen gas were getting separated, somewhere in between minus 196 degrees C to minus 198 degrees C and like that. So what happens? How do we separate gases? We separate gases by fractional distillation. Now what happens? Since these inert gases are generally the noble gases like helium, neon, argon, these are inert gases. They don't react. So their temperature at which they liquefy is also very low. So they can be separated by compressing them in presence of certain catalyst. So catalyst will be able to hold them in one place and then they can be compressed so that adsorption of that particular noble gas takes place on a surface. Alright. So separation of inert gases requires use of adsorption phenomena. Next is curing diseases. How do we cure disease? Say for example, if somebody has sunburn, then what we do? We apply a surface of or a layer of sunscreen, isn't it? If somebody has acidity, then we drink antacids. So what are these? These are actually colloids which gets adsorbed on our tissues and cell and prevents the cell to be damaged by unwanted materials like excess of acid or sunlight. Alright. Like the sunscreen which we use. Say this is the sunscreen, alright. It is written SPF 25. SPF 25 means sun protection formula 25. So it is a regular use sunscreen which can be applied on the surface of the skin and it protects the skin from sunburn. Alright. So you might be seeing some other medicines like milk of magnesia, liquid paraffin. So milk of magnesia, if we drink it directly, then what would happen is it is basic and it could be abrasive to some extent. Now this liquid paraffin, alright, then sodium picosulfate, oral emulsion. So these all are the concepts related with the adsorption and surface chemistry. formation of emulsion. So these syrups, these chemicals which we apply on our skin, which we drink, these all are related with curing of diseases. Alright. Further, we will be discussing about these drugs in our last chapter. In the last chapter, chemistry in daily life, again this drug chapter will come, in which we will be studying more about these cosmetics and drugs also. Next is Froth flotation process. Can you recall this study of metals and nonmetals in class 10th? In class 10th, when metals and nonmetal was going on, then there was a topic in which you had to study about extraction of copper from copper sulfide. So it was written over there that the sulfide ores are concentrated, or they are made to undergo beneficiation process, or they are made to undergo enrichment process. Enrichment, concentration, beneficiation, these all are the same words which we use. So sulfide ores are concentrated by using Froth flotation process. What does copper sulfide contain? Copper sulfide contains Cu. It is in the form of CuFeS2. This CuFeS2 is nothing but Cus plus Fes. Now, together they are known as copper ore. In this copper ore is sulfide ore. It is available in the nature in the form of sulfide ore. Now what happened, once upon a time there was a miner who used to work in copper mines. So when he tried to get his dress or the clothes which he used to wear every day washed, he saw that the dust particles or the mud containing the copper ore, it got adsorbed on the soap bubbles. So with this, he could find out that by making froth, that means lather of soap, if we can prepare some kind of lather using pine oil or foaming agent, then on that foam, copper sulfide can remain adsorbed. Again, I am saying adsorbed. And after that, those foam can be skimmed out and they can be again dried. Alright. And after drying them, we can get the copper sulfide and can separate the impurities like the unwanted rocks, dust, leaves, dead and decaying matters, organic matters, all that we can separate, and copper sulfide can come out along with the froth. So this process is called as Froth flotation process. Alright. This process was discovered by one copper mines worker, just like a serendipity. It was an accidental discovery, but he was very keen and observant, and hence he observed this property of copper sulfide, that it gets adsorbed on the lather, and then he conveyed this information to his higher tech, and then this method became a validated method. Alright, validated method means the method which can be applied in commercial scale. Next is, although 8 points we have done, so 2 bonus points I will tell you. 9th, adsorption indicator. During titration, indicator helps us to understand the end point of the reaction. Now sometimes a certain reactant starts giving color at a particular pH or at a particular form when some kind of color giving indicators are added into it, which absorbs that end product, like magneson, fluorescein. So these all are adsorption indicators. Alright. So barium diphenyl sulfonate, it's also called as BDS indicator, is used for analysis of iron in iron ore. Alright. So these all are color giving indicators which gives color by adsorbing the particles or the indicator particles on the end product, whatever the end product is there. If it is redox titration, it could be a reduced substance, it could be oxidized substance. Alright. So depending upon what kind of titration is going on, the indicators they get adsorbed on the end product and indicates the end point of the reaction. Next is chromatographic analysis. What does the word chroma means? Chroma means color, graphic means a visual in the form of some separated or well-defined separations. Graphics means visual with well-defined separations. Now what happens? Say for example, if you have to find out that in a mixture of color, which colors were there. Say for example, if I mix blue with yellow, then I will get green color, if I am not wrong. Now, the green color may not be a pure green color, but it may contain a component of blue color and yellow color. So to find out what are the components present in the green color given to us, what we can do is we can take a solvent in which say 50% water and 50% alcohol, so that if the color contains organic substance, then also it will get dissolved. If the color contains inorganic substance, then also it can be dissolved. This kind of solvent is also called as eluent. Now in that eluent, we can dip one chromatographic paper, or generally we can take a filter paper also, which has to be cut in the form of a stripe. Then from the bottom of that chromatography paper, we can draw a margin at 2 cm ahead and bisect it. At the point of intersection, we can put a very small drop of the color to be tested, and we can dip the tip of that paper into that solution, 50% alcohol in water. What will happen? Due to the capillary action as a result of the available pores in the filter paper, when the filter paper will become wet and the solution will rise up, then what will happen? Then it will carry upward the lighter fragment or lighter component of the color. As a result, whichever color will be lighter in its weight will go to the higher strata, and whichever color will be of lower weight or will be of higher weight will be seen in the lower strata. In that way, we can get one chromatogram. Like this, we will get chromatogram of different color. This experiment you might have seen or you might have done in class 9th in the chapter separation of substances. If not, when I will be in the laboratory, I will try to show you the chromatographic experiment. Alright. Now this was simple paper chromatography. In graduation, you may require to do the advanced chromatography in the form of getting things adsorbed on alumina, Al2O3, which will be called as TLC, thin layer chromatography, which you have to do in a bench. Or you may require to do it in a column, and that is called as column chromatography. If you join pharmaceuticals or if you go for research in chemistry, then you may also require to do HPLC, like high performance liquid chromatography, or high pressure liquid chromatography, or GLC, gas phase liquid chromatography, GPLC or GLC. So this chromatographic paper experiment which you do in class 9th, it becomes very useful in analytical chemistry and pharmaceutical chemistry for quality assurance and quality control, and for research and development too. So it has got a huge scope in future. So this chapter is very important from your career point of view as a chemical engineer, as well as a chemist, or as a scientist in future, whatever you would like to choose. Thank you.